This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, getting you ready for today's sports day.
3 of the first 4 games have been at home, so at some point in time you're going to have to venture outside the 806, so that'll start this week.
While having a little fun along the way.
Always good if you can blame it on somebody else, right?
Yeah, sure.
Especially some media guy.
Sure. Right, some media guy.
Catch the show live weekday mornings from 6 to 9 on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3.
Thoughts, comments, Yates Flooring Center chat line. Go to doublet973.com for that, or the mobile app. Benchmark hotline is open too at 806-771-0973. Just a little tidbit for you from the ball game on Saturday. Texas Tech, in their history, has won 2,646 games. 14 of them have been won by 50 points or more, including Saturday's game.
Yeah, it's the this is the cherry on top of the non-conference schedule that the Red Raiders have decided to put together. Cherry on top of the just unexciting matchups.
Mm-hmm. Well, it could.
This one takes the cake, so to speak, right?
Takes this. You sound a little just a skosh bitter about it.
No, I'm not bitter.
Okay.
Oh, well.
I mean, there's nothing to hang a banner for so far.
Yeah, I'm just not going to get real excited about a 52-point win against a 1-10 team.
No,
Okay.
I'm not.
I'm not going to act like everything's good now over there at men's basketball.
Oh no.
I mean, you played pretty poorly against some pretty poor teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then there's the off the court stuff.
Your next debacle will be Wednesday afternoon.
That doesn't have to be a debacle.
Against Houston Christian, okay, the Huskies. And then you take on South Carolina State on the Tuesday after Christmas.
Maybe this was the thing that got everybody back together, and
Humpty Dumpty.
We'll see a better team the rest of the way.
Well, you had some guys that had some quality minutes. Elijah Fisher got in the ball game. He scored 8 points.
If you'd have made the trip, you'd have got quality minutes, Chuck.
You think?
I do.
I think I probably could have. Contributed to the cause. There's nothing really to break down here other than
exactly.
You beat a team you should have beaten. Okay.
He took care of the JV squad.
You took care of business and you won in front of.
I think they'd have been better off with Dion playing for him, or maybe Dion's daughter.
Yeah, and I don't know if she's leaving at semester. I don't know that she's good enough to transfer to Colorado. Maybe academically she is. But like the one game that she's played and like the 1 point that she had scored prior to him was like here in Lubbock.
It was here? It was like here?
It was here. Okay. It was here in Lubbock. Okay. That was her one one appearance to date was here in Lubbock. I sound like
my teenage daughters.
Your teenage daughters.
So did she score it in like post? Is that like Lubbock, or is that
no? It's over there.
Shallow water.
It's over there at the arena.
See, it was here.
So
was it like here? It's just funny when you pull out your teenager.
Well,
your inner teenager.
I feel like that. I'll take that as a compliment.
There you go.
That
young at heart.
I still got a little inner teenager in me.
That's good. Young at heart.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, so that's that. What did you make of the Cowboys mess?
Man, you're up.
The great word, mess. That's what I took of it.
That's fair. You had a 17-point lead in the third quarter, and looking like you got this thing. You're good, and just kind of let it slip away in the fourth, and then a fluky play in overtime.
Sure,
but man, you can't give up 34 in regulation to the Jags.
Right.
You just don't put yourself in that situation. If you consider yourself a real contender, man, you're not giving up 40 to the Jags.
Right.
It is true that in any given Sunday, any team in the NFL can beat another team. The Houston Texans have a win, and they're terrible. Dallas had no excuse losing this game. None. They have been playing on this razor's edge of, hey, we're the Dallas Cowboys. We can come back on anybody for like 3 weeks now. And I don't want to say lollygagging, but they've not played their best football the entire game. They've just kind of been, oh, well, I guess we should turn it on now. And they got this big lead. And then went, oh, okay, well, we're good now because Jacksonville's going to roll over. And Jacksonville went, hey, we're NFL contracts too. We can play football too. And came back and bit him in the butt.
Cowboys led 27-10 with 5:21 to go in the third quarter. And then lose the game 40-34 in overtime. Maybe the most controversial of all the plays that were called. There's a $1:20 left in the ball game. Cowboys 3rd and 10 from their own 38, and they chose to attempt a deep pass down the left side to Noah Brown. There was single coverage on him, but it was a low percentage pass and it goes incomplete. And so as a result of that, Jacksonville does not have to use their final timeout before the Cowboys would punt it away. And then they used that timeout to help them stop the clock to be able to
move down the field.
Move down the field, right. And their kicker hit a 48-yard field goal as regulation expired.
Yeah, I hate the decision to pass there. Obviously, like you said, it's low percentage. They're expecting the run there. And so you feel like if you're going to run there, they're going to be heavy in the box and you're not going to have much chance to pick up the first down. So you're punting the ball away either way, right? And so it's just you're absolutely right. It's a situation there of, boy, if you connect on that, high reward, right? High reward.
You win the ball game. Game's over.
Right. If you run the ball, you're punting it to them. You're not getting the first down, right? It's 3rd and 10.
Sure.
So that's a tough one. I think I'm okay with a pass, but I'd rather a higher percentage pass, right? Yeah, let's go for a 12-yard out instead of a deep ball.
It just doesn't seem like that's a play that they use a whole lot, though. Mike McCarthy told the reporters after the game that he made that call because he was trying to win the game. Well, I would hope that every call that he makes, he's trying to win the game. But I get it. I understand. Just he does have a kind of a higher risk kind of MO about him, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. So it puts him when you lead by 17 points with 5:21 to go in the third quarter, and you cough it up.
Yeah, this team continues to confuse me.
Okay.
I'm just, and watching. I watched a little bit of the Sunday night game last night, and the commercial breaks of Sound of Music. Yeah, watched Sound of Music last night. It was exciting.
Okay, I didn't even know it was on. I'm glad I didn't know it was on because that probably would have been on.
Yeah. I'll actually take that over Sunday night football most nights. So anyway, watching that and listening to our two broadcasters who I think are really good talk about how great the division is, how everybody's much improved and so much better. And I don't want to say that they're wrong, but I'm just not sure. We talked about it last week, the schedule that these NFC East teams have this year. And I don't know if it's everybody's beating up on everybody, aka Giants, Cowboys, Commanders, or
Eagles.
No, the Eagles aren't beating up. Nobody's beating up on the Eagles.
No, they're 13-1.
Yeah, nobody's beating up on them. So that's why fair. I didn't put them in that category.
I got you.
Okay. Or is the division just pretty okay? Are there 4 okay teams and no bad teams there? I just don't know how good the division is. I'm not sold. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just not. Last night they're like, oh, this division it's turned to one of the best in the NFL. No, it's turned to one of the closest. But are they really good teams? I don't know. Because the schedules are pretty weak.
Very balanced division minus the Eagles.
And I don't know how good the Eagles are.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles are pretty good.
Well, you kind of look at the game last night. Washington had a chance, but they blew it. They had a big penalty that cost them right at the end. So
You're listening to the Morning Drive podcast from Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3, recapping the night that was in the world of sports.
A little bit later on tonight, we'll have the Astros and the Diamondbacks. That'll be at 8. And then the Rangers playing at Seattle tonight.
And also bringing some humor to your day.
Was it pretty big?
Yeah, I mean,
Was it impressive?
Yeah.
Was it fascinating?
It was. I thought it was fascinating. It kind of smelled, but I mean.
Hear the show live weekday mornings at 6 on Double T 97.3 or on the Double T 97.3 mobile app.
Lots of probably still some office parties or get-togethers or things like that. We had ours last week in which we had a white elephant gift exchange, and I think presumably everybody walked out of there reasonably happy. There was no true zingers. Even the zinger that David Thetford brought, the potty golf deal, where you're sitting on the throne, but you can still play golf while you're sitting there. He apparently had stuffed a bunch of coupons in there for, different businesses around town. So he made.
I think you're confusing two gifts.
No.
Thetford brought two gifts.
No. Inside that gift,
inside his hat had all the coupons. The potty putter was a different one.
That was Thetford. That's the one that Thetford brought. Rick Gilbert won that, and eventually won that. And inside that, David told him later there was a bunch of coupons in there.
So they both put coupons in their stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Why am I not shocked?
Well, anyway, it was at least nice of him to do that if you're going to give a zinger for a gift. Anyway, my point to all this was going to be a Kentucky woman went to her office party. They had a white elephant gift exchange. She worked at a local dentist office. Lori Janes is her name. Apparently, during the game, one of her colleagues stole her $25 TJ Maxx gift card.
Oh, man.
Prompting her to take $25 worth of scratch-off tickets from another coworker.
I think we know where this is heading.
Once it got to me, it was done and mine to keep. So that's when everyone was telling me to scratch them off.
How much, Jeff? Oh, Jeff left.
No.
I'm going to guess $2,000.
No. She scratched off a $50 deal, and then she scratched them all off, and then she realized that she had won all 15 spots on the ticket, and that $25 gift exchange won her $175,000.
Sweet. Nice.
She said she plans to use the money to help pay her daughter's student loans and the family's car payment. Sounds like
awesome.
She walked out at the net at the end of the day was $124,250. So good for her. Good for her. And I'll bet you that person that had it at the end, the second to last person was just probably sick, right?
I would guess so. Yeah.
I mean, I would be sick.
Yeah.
I would
sure.
be. I would be sick. So anyway, just crazy. Another guy who. And maybe this is not another guy, but a guy who gambled and lost is the guy that caught Aaron Judge's 60-second home run ball. Remember, we talked about this the other day, that I ran into this auction and wondered how much it would be. So the guy from Texas, Corey Yeomans, he was initially offered $3 million. He declined that. Another guy, the president of Memory Lane Auctions, J.P. Cohen, offered $2 million for it and then was declined. And he ended up selling it at the auction house for $1.5 million.
You probably had to pay plenty of fees at the auction house too.
Yeah. So I don't know what the net was for him. Sometimes those fees are upped as part of that, that bid, so that the net comes back to 1.5. But still, you're exactly right. I mean, for one thing, he shortchanged himself about $500,000 by not taking the guy's offer for $2 million, and then you could say $1.5 million for the guy that said, "I'll give you $3 million." Now, how legitimate a claim that was, a bid or offer that was, don't know. But man, that's on him. Maybe for trying to be a little greedy by going to the auction house. I would also question the timing too this time of year.
Well, kind of a situation where it's kind of blown over, and it's I don't want to say it's not a big deal anymore, but
kind of lost its magic.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, you kind of have to hit those things when you can, because it's one of those deals where you gotta, while the griddle's hot, you gotta put the eggs on, so to speak. Go ahead and get your money. That's the lesson to learn there. So if you ever catch one of those baseballs like that and somebody offers you a ton of money, that would be the time to do it. Robert says this with regard to the Cowboys game. The game was really lost before halftime when the Cowboys failed to go down and make it 28-7. If Dallas does that, they would have squashed the Jags' morale at that point.
I don't disagree with Robert there. I mean, but again, you're up 17 in the third quarter. It's not like you, after that, the game completely turned around. You still were in control late in the game. There's probably a good number of plays just like the one Robert described, or situations like Robert described, where you could have said if that went differently, the Cowboys win that game.
Yeah. I mean, look at the Chiefs in Houston. What Houston's done the last 2 weeks. I mean, they took the Cowboys to the brink, and then they took the Chiefs to overtime yesterday. And Chiefs were very fortunate to win that ball game. They missed a field goal at the end of regulation. It was a 52, I think is what it was, 47-52 in that range. And Harrison Butker he's had some challenges this year. He'd missed an extra point earlier in the game, but the Chiefs atoned for that by getting a 2-point conversion. But they knocked the ball out. They were able to recover a fumble. They're right away in Houston's possession of overtime, and then the next play and run it in for a touchdown. So they were fortunate to escape Houston. And man, I'll tell you, that Texan team yesterday, the pressure they were putting on Mahomes, that's concerning in terms of the Chiefs' ability to protect him. Mahomes really got hit hard a few times, and then just the defense as leaky as it was. So, there's teams at the top that are having problems putting teams away. And in the Texans' case, they played a bunch of younger players, some of whom were fresh and maybe just hungry to win or hungry to play.
Yeah, you better hope you can avoid the Texans in the playoffs if you're in the AFC.
Well, I guess my point is that
they're beating up on the big boys.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying, though. I mean, it's like, everybody's got some challenges. No, there's no maybe perfect team.
Well, I think we kind of chuckled at the Cowboys' performance last Sunday when they were neck and neck with the Texans, and well, at least from this side of the room, I'm going to chuckle at the Chiefs' performance because that wasn't a good one.
No, heck no.
And by chuckle, I mean feel like that wasn't very good.
No, not at all.
Yeah, no. I'm probably not falling into the boat of giving the Texans credit.
Well, I guess my only point in giving them credit was that they played with effort. They seemed to play with more effort than the Chiefs did at times. I mean, that's a Chiefs problem. It is a Chiefs problem, but when you kind of put yourself in that spot, I mean, the Chiefs had 502 yards of offense to the Texans 219, and they had to go to overtime.
Yeah, it sounds like their offense played well.
The defense did not.
The defense didn't
at times, right?
Although, I mean, how many yards of offense did they give up? What did you just say?
Chiefs had 502 to the Texans 219.
219. The defense did play well there. Just didn't make some key plays, I guess.
I guess at times, right?
Your morning dose of coffee and sports. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3. Catch the show live weekdays from 6 to 9 on Double T 97.3 FM or on the Double T 97.3 mobile app.
I wish that I had been watching just so that I could say that I was watching. But I would tell you that even if that game was on, I probably wouldn't have been watching unless it was the only one on. And that's the Vegas Raiders and the New England Patriots game.
That was
crazy ending. When there's just a few seconds left to go in the ball game, Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots.
Oh, one of our favorite Oklahoma Sooners.
He runs up the middle, and basically they're running out the clock. They're going to see if there's anything there because there's 3 seconds left in the game. So it's like, okay, so if he runs up the middle and something happens, penalty or whatever, or just breaks one. But he does break one. He breaks one for 23 yards, and then he decides to pitch the ball to Jacoby Myers. As you start seeing that, what inevitably always ends in a tackle, and then they go to overtime, and you throw the ball around a lot, and nothing really happens. Although in this case, Jacoby Myers then decides to throw a pass back across the field. I guess he's throwing it to Mac Jones. He ends up completing the pass to Chandler Jones, who used to play for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, you never you've heard the rules, right, Chuck, in the pitch and lateral drill. I mean, you never throw it back across the field, right?
Right.
You've heard that rule.
You never throw it across your body either, right?
Across the field, unless you're Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
This is prime. If you're down on that play, then you take risks. You do everything possible.
Sure.
If you're tied, you
take a knee and go to the
man. You gotta play a whole lot tighter than that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't be slinging passes. I mean, that ball's in the air for 20 yards, right?
Yeah, it's just hung there.
Yeah, it may not have been 20 yards backwards, but he's on the sideline to the middle of the field, and it's a ways back, so at least 20 yards.
Yeah.
And I mean, just so incredibly low low football IQ to make that throw.
Yeah, it's like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, really dumb.
What are you thinking? And Chandler Jones then, hits a guy in the face mask and stiff arms him.
That's nice.
It was, and then goes down the field 48 yards, and the Raiders win.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be seeing Mac Jones fill in at DB anytime soon.
And so for all the Raiders have been in a number of these kind of things. You've got the tuck rule. You've got the immaculate reception. Then you've got sea of hands, holy roller, which involved Dave Casper and Ken Stabler, and then the Heidi game where they scored in the waning moments of a game twice, and NBC had cut away for Heidi about this time of year. All these things happen about this time of year. In fact, the immaculate reception. I mean, if you watched any football yesterday, then the 50th anniversary is on Friday, and the Steelers and the Raiders are going to play on Christmas Eve, and they'll have a whole. So when somebody says, "Have you ever seen anything like an ending like that?" I can say, "Yeah, I can say I've seen an ending like that because I was watching that Steeler-Raider game. It was a playoff game."
Yeah. So, like, if you said as crazy as that, yes, right. You've seen stuff like that, but I've never seen a guy make as well. Unfortunately, I have. I was gonna say I've never seen a guy make a dumber pitch late in the game, but there was the Tech Kansas game a couple years ago.
Yeah, that resulted in a fumble and a field goal and losing a game that you should not have lost. But yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody on the 8th Flooring Center chat line, they played this earlier this morning. The Pats radio call said, "This is the dumbest team I have ever seen."
Oh man!
Oh God, it's just crazy. How about this? How about this for just a couple of little conversation starters for your coffee pot discussion this morning, or any kind of Christmas parties you still have to go to? It was according to ESPN, the second go-ahead defensive touchdown on the final play of regulation in NFL history. The other one came in 1960 by the Patriots in Week 2 against the New York Titans, who would later change their name to the New York Jets. For the Raiders, they became the first team to score 2 touchdowns in the final 40 seconds of regulation, with the second score giving them the lead since Week 2 of the 2015 season when the Broncos beat the Chiefs. With regard to the Heidi game, which was in 1968, the Raiders scored 2 touchdowns in the final minute to beat the New York Jets. And NBC had cut away from that game because they thought the game was over so that they could show the movie Heidi. And the NBC switchboard lit up like Christmas. It was about this time of year when the Heidi game took place in 1968.
You know, we always talk about the Heidi game. You ever watched it? Heidi. Not the game, the Heidi.
Maybe.
I think I've seen the opening like 30 seconds because I've watched the replay of the cutaway of what that looked like.
Right.
But never actually watched Heidi.
Yeah.
Are the hills alive there too?
The hills. There are hills there. There are hills there.
Are the hills alive with the sound of music there?
Did they get out of Switzerland okay? Or out of Germany into Switzerland okay?
I didn't finish last night.
You didn't.
Went to bed.
You went to bed.
That's a long movie.
Like, can you imagine? Like,
it is, especially with the.
I don't think they're in Switzerland. In Austria.
Austria. Okay.
Yeah.
Austria, Switzerland. It's kind of same difference. The mountains, snow, got a bunch of hills there.
I guess my point.
Green Bay, cold, December.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess my point is, like, if it had been breaking in for It's a Wonderful Life, now we would look at that and go, it's stupid, but at least they broke in for an all-time classic. I don't know anybody who's seen Heidi.
Well, I think Heidi at that point in time was a classic. It was a hit.
It might have been a hit,
Yeah.
but it's not.
Well, if you did it for A Wonderful Life, I'd be like, we've seen this every year.
Right.
Yeah, why do we have to watch it again?
Yeah. Kind of like Christmas Story. 7:22 this morning here on the morning drive. So they got to come up with a name for this thing. Then somebody will come up with a catchy name like the Immaculate Reception or something like that. Because I think the Immaculate Reception was something that came up after the fact. It did not come up right away that day by the Steeler announcer or by.
I think the Pats radio guy said it well. I mean, why not just call it the dumbest play you've ever seen?
He said it was the dumbest team he's ever seen.
Just turn and throw it in the wrong direction. Well, you can't throw it forward, but just throw it towards your goal line.
Yeah.
And still you're a long way from the goal line, but up in the air so anybody can go have at it.
Sure.
I mean, is the equivalent of saving the ball underneath your opponent's basket.
And how about the Cowboy ending? I mean, just so bizarre. I mean, that ball goes right off of Noah Brown's hand into the hands of the.
Should never have gotten that far.
Just bad luck.
Yeah, I agree with you. It should never have gotten that far, but I mean, the ball was, I guess, slightly, but it was a catchable ball. He should have caught that ball.
Well, Dak, if you heard him, he was very clear to say, I threw it low on purpose. Very interesting, which I believe he did, but he also very much throws his wide receiver under the bus by saying that.
Yeah, by saying something like that. Right.
You're tuned in to the Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3, recapping the night that was in the world of sports.
That's not to say that they don't respect the run game that you have, but you're talking about one quarterback leading the conference in passing so far this year. And remember, he didn't start the first game.
Right.
Still played a lot, though.
And also bringing some humor to your day.
I just don't want to disappoint you. As much as I disappoint you, I don't want to disappoint you in some things that you expect from me.
Hear the show live weekday mornings at 6 on Double T 97.3 or on the Double T 97.3 mobile app.
All right, what you got for me, Jeff, and our fine listening audience, Mr. Lent?
All right, my question for you today kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. What was the most surprising outcome of the weekend, sports-wise?
The most surprising outcome of the weekend.
I think there's some good candidates here.
Okay, so obviously you have the Raiders and the Patriots. That's one. You have the 33-point comeback by the Vikings over the Indianapolis Colts. That's one. You have the 50-point win for Texas Tech over Jackson State. I think that's surprising to everybody but me. So I'm not going to tell you that's most surprising outcome. Full tongue-in-cheek there, okay? Full tongue-in-cheek. The way that the Cowboys lost maybe that's not so surprising. Jeff, do you have one that stands out to you?
I got one each way. The Tech win by 50.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were nuts. Like, them winning by 20 wouldn't have necessarily surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
When you said 45 on Friday, I thought we were going to have to check your drink.
Certifiable.
And they exceeded that.
They exceeded that.
So that's the positive one.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a team you should have beaten.
Sure.
But the negative for me, and the one that is just stuck in my craw, is how the Cowboys lost that game yesterday. Like, I can't even put words together for how frustrated I am with the Cowboys for how they lost that game.
It's just one game. I mean, everybody has a stinker every once in a while.
Sure.
How about...
And in my head, I know that. I get it. And it's the NFL, and anybody can win.
Sure.
But it's how you did it. And there's no explanation for it.
How about this? The Cincinnati Bengals beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 34-23. At one point in that game, the Bucs had a 17-0 lead. In Tom Brady's career, when he's had a 17-point lead on teams, going into that game, 89-0. So that's a surprising setback for them. But when you cough up the ball like 4 straight times, it leads to things like 34-23 setbacks.
So my answer is going to be the Colts and the Vikings. I mean, any NFL team down 33-0 at the half, right? I'm just not expecting that team to lose.
Right.
I mean, obviously the way the Pats and the Raiders finished was crazy. But any team down 33-0 at halftime to come back and win, I don't care if one's really bad and one's really good. That seems like impossible, darn near impossible. So that to me was the most surprising outcome of the weekend.
I got one we haven't mentioned as well that I would put third in this list, but still I think it's worthy to be mentioned. How about the Texans taking Kansas City to overtime?
Yeah, no question.
No, the outcome was the Chiefs beat the Texans.
Yeah.
That's not surprising.
The outcome wasn't surprising. How we got there was.
But the question was, what was the most surprising outcome?
I think for me, I'm with Jamie. Because I just completely dismissed that game. I was watching part of that game. I came down here to do some work in my office. I was listening to Tech and Jackson State. I got just had the radio on, just listening to Hacks and the game. And when I got home and I turned on the TV and learned that Indianapolis had coughed up that lead, I was shocked. So I'm going to say the Vikings and the Colts as well. I'm going to agree with you. Okay. This from the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Jeff is right. It's not that they lost. That happens how they lost. Bullfighter says clock management for the Cowboy game was absolutely terrible. It was.
Can't disagree with either one of those texts.
Sonia says this. Good morning, gentlemen. I lost my voice yesterday during the Kansas City game. Still recovering. Okay. We get this. Just tuned in. How many times has Chuck brought up the winning by 45 already? Did he text y'all immediately on Saturday? No, I did not.
He did not text us on Saturday. I almost texted him on Saturday. I was close. Like, wow.
I did get a couple of texts on Saturday. I got a couple. I didn't send out any communiques.
Unfortunately, I was involved in those texts too.
Yeah, but it wasn't initiated by me. It was initiated by our colleague and former colleague and still our friend David Collier. Right?
Still our former friend? Yes. No. He's still our former friend. 100%. Still our former friend.
So that surprised. I'll tell you the other game on Saturday, the Saturday night game. I mean it was exciting. The Bills and the Dolphins maybe a little bit more exciting than you wanted it to be, with the Bills winning 32-29. Bills moved their record to 11-3 on the season. That kind of went down to the nitty gritty. I mean, the Dolphins took a lead of 29-21, and then in the fourth quarter, and then the Bills come back and get a couple of touchdowns and we'll get a touchdown and then get the field goal by Tyler Bass with no time remaining to get the win.
Yeah, it was a good game. Two good teams.
Mm-hmm.
Miami had an 8-point lead the fourth quarter. They Buffalo played well in the first half and then shot themselves in the foot over and over again in the third and did nothing there and found themselves down by 8, but made some plays late and got a W.
Josh Allen's just an absolute beast. 10 carries, 77 yards, and I mean, so a couple of those were like right up the middle where he is like taking a pounding and just gets right up off the deck.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
I know,
big physical guy.
I know he is, but I mean, still though, I mean, to execute like he did, and he was 25 of 40, 304 yards, had 4 touchdowns. So a really big day for him, and they spread the ball out all amongst the receivers there. So by your logic, JL, the outcome that the Vikings beat the Colts is not surprising. It's how they got there.
No, he makes a great point because I said to Jeff about the Texans and the Chiefs, I expected the Chiefs to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would have expected the Vikings to beat the Colts too.
Sure. So
that texter has a really good point there. I do not have any kind of an argument against it. I guess seeing any team down 33-0 at halftime, you think they're going to lose the game. But he's right. I would have picked the Vikings to win that game over the Colts.
Well, credit the Vikings for, figuring out a way to win and not mailing it in.
Yeah, it's hard to give them all the credit, though. You got to put so much blame on the Colts, too, though.
I understand.
Getting your sports day started the right way. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, breaking down the biggest games.
If Texas Tech does not win the Big 12 football conference, who are you rooting for to win the conference if Tech does not win it this year?
Well, busting some chops along the way.
I hold back on sending you stuff. I mean, I'm very, very, very judicious.
We spend 3 hours a day, 5 days a week together. Why would we need to communicate during the weekends?
Right,
Save it for the show.
We do. We save it for the show.
Tune into the Morning Drive live weekdays from 6 to 9 on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3.
Thank you for being with us with Jamie Lent and Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. Take your thoughts and comments today on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Go to doublet973.com for that, or the mobile app. Benchmark Hotline is open as well as we come to you this morning from the First United Bank studio. I'm knocking on wood when I say this, and I think you guys will immediately go, don't say that, but it sure has seemed to be somewhat quiet, and maybe given everything that took place last week, it would have been hard to make any noise beyond what your basketball program was going through and what Texas was going through and other things that transpired last week. But it sure seems like the Texas Tech football program's been awful quiet over the last week or so.
Nothing to see here.
Just seems like it's been quiet. So hopefully that will remain the same. I mean, you'll have National Signing Day on Wednesday, at least the early signing period. When do you think they get rid of the second one? And do you think that's coming? The first Wednesday in February?
No.
I don't
think
would continue to be diminished.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good. I mean, if guys haven't decided by then, then yeah, I think that they'll continue to have that second one. I don't think it'll go away.
I like that this early December signing period is out there for kids that want to have made their decision for months. Some of them will go ahead and enroll early and get a start on their, college football career. I used to be really bothered by that. I'm less bothered by that today than maybe I was 5 years ago. It seems like that's kind of the way it is right now for your top recruits, and for some of these kids to get a jump start on college, get the good jump start on the college experience of getting ready to from a schoolwork, from a living away from home, from a getting extra strength going through spring practice. It seems like there's way more advantage than, yet on the other hand, if you're playing baseball or you're playing basketball for your high school team, you're giving up, a semester of your high school experience. But maybe for some of these guys, it's like, hey, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready for the next step. I'm ready to go ahead and go to college and take advantage of everything that's there for me.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where, I think you or I might say, we'd want our kid to enjoy high school and all the above and his final semester of his senior year and all that. But if we had a high-level kid that we thought had a chance to go and he was going to get a leg up, we probably would think differently about that.
Yeah.
So I guess that's one of those to each their own kind of deals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I would agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm. I get your point. Like, oh, hey, have some fun, be with your class and all that. But if a kid's like, hey, man, I want to go through spring drills or whatever, and that's gonna, even if I do redshirt the next year, I can get on with my college career and man, why not?
And I don't know if you saw this or not, but speaking about being able to redshirt, you can play in 4 games in the regular season, but now, because I guess part of this is guys in the portal or guys deciding not to play because of their NFL career getting ready to start or wanting to start their NFL career. Speaking of starting early, if you've played 4 games, you can play in the bowl game this year. So in other words, if you played 4 games during the regular year and didn't play a 5th game because you didn't want to burn a year of eligibility, okay?
The bowl game doesn't count?
The bowl game now does not count. That's correct. That's the latest ruling from the NCAA.
Let's just give everybody unlimited eligibility. Let's just go there. Because then we won't have to deal with this ever again. Well, just know, you're always eligible.
That's part of what this, again, the part of the function of this is the way that these rosters have now kind of come down because of defections. Mm-hmm. So
because everybody's entering the portal, or because guys aren't going to play in their bowl game, they're going to get ready for the next level, and so you need bodies. And that's the reasoning. It's not really about oh, we need to we're going to let that kid play and he's not going to use eligibility. It's about, hey, some teams need these guys to be able to play.
Right.
Then maybe they shouldn't
have
the bowl game. Played 3 games earlier in the season.
Yeah, the article that I read from Athlon Sports says that college football rosters have become strapped during bowl season because of players entering portals.
It's not about
injuries or because of a grueling season. Some opt to set out the bowl games if they're entering the NFL draft. So
I think that you should be able to play in the NCAA basketball postseason and that not count. Because it's just the postseason, like a football game, right? Like a bowl game, just the postseason.
Well, basketball doesn't have that situation where you have...
Yeah, you can play 6 games and still be... Yeah. But I think there is some sense to that, right? I think if a guy plays 2 or 3 games and gets hurt or they decide not to play him the rest of the way, I think you can still get that as a red shirt.
The waiver? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can.
Sure.
I think. I might be wrong on that. I don't know if it's a number of minutes or a number of games or what the deal is.
It just seems like there's less of a reason for a waiver in college basketball than there is in college football because... Let's face it, the guys that are the top of the roster rarely stay with your team 4 years or rarely stay in college 4 years. That's what it seems like. Yeah. So it seems a bit...
This is fun. This is just so much fun.
I figured that you would really enjoy that aspect of things. So 8:08 this morning here on the morning drive. Meanwhile, one of the other things that I wanted to talk to you about and just kind of list out a number of athletes for Texas Tech this past weekend graduated. Some still have eligibility left and others do not, but a number of football players graduated. I've got the list for you. I'll give you some of those when we return here this morning on the morning drive. Also, there's comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line about that. There's football practice that will continue today as they get ready for the bowl game. A week from Wednesday, oh, by the way, is when that's going to be. Texas Tech in the Houston Bowl. We'll have coverage for you all day long next week here on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3 as part of Optimum Game Day Live, presented by United Supermarkets from the Texas Bowl in Houston.
You've been listening to the Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3. For more from Lubbock Sports Station, go to doublet973.com.